Copper and gypsum in Bull Bay, Jamaica. Earthquake derived. So in this video, what it is that I'm highlighting is the observations I would have made of mineralizations as well as a mine, and generally speaking, what it is that the communities would have had to, go through in terms of adjustments. Now, essentially what it is that I would like to just briefly mention is the observations I made within this location of Bull Bay is relatively consistent with observations I would have made in other sections of the Wagwater zone thus far, which include Constitution Hill, Hazelite area, or Constitution Hill, Hazelite and Dallas area, Peters Rock, as well as Woodford, as well as sections of Clydesdale, Mavis Bank, as well as, I would say, Garden Town. All of these locations reveal similar mineralizations. So with this video, it's just about you having the opportunity to see what it is I would have seen whilst in the field. So this is where I turn back. Now for this gypsum mine, I will just briefly mention that I was unaware that a mine such as this existed in this era. Basically doing prior work, it would have come across that this mine would have been outdated. But after having dialogue with some senior members of Bloxburg rather, they would have indicated to me that this mine has been in operation for at least over 30 years. So, this is a well-established gypsum mine. And it's apparent that in terms of the truckers, they appear to be members of the community within 9 Miles Bull Bay. These houses are situated pretty much exactly to where the mine clip I would have shared with you just a while ago is located. I got to understand that these households or buildings would have been made to relocate, or rather the dwellers of these households and buildings were made to relocate. This that you're looking at is essentially anhydrite slash gypsum. And in terms of its outcropping, you can see that it is quite significant. This is the most I've seen gypsum slash anhydrite be so, I would say, available on the surface. This is even a sample that I came across whilst walking, and it's a relatively good chunk, so you can see those relative banded zones of dark and creamish gray. There is an outcrop that is part responsible for the copper iron skarns present in the zone. I see those layers, green layers, orange layers, copper, iron, impure carbonate. Walking on mapping. So at this point, I just highlight here different, observations relating to copper iron skarns. You can see that they are affiliated with volcanic rocks, but it's also a case where these mineralizations or mineralized zones would also highlight that there is a degree of veining of carbonates as well. So essentially, it's a case where we can deduce that these mineralized zones are as a result of the influence or the interaction of carbonates with the volcanic or the lava flows, if you will. And this basically is where the skarns would be produced. So you can even see these mineralizations in soils, and as well as the mineralizations within specific veins in and of itself, such as this outcropping here. So that cream area is the carbonate veins. And you can see those mafic veins as well, iron oxidized veins as an example. I even managed to get a chunk of it in my hand, as you can see right here. Now, interestingly, what it is that also grabbed my eye is the vast extent at which I would have observed these oxidized slash mineralized zones. You can see that, generally speaking, these zones exist where they come in contact with, let's just say, carbonate zones. And you can see that it's relatively a case where it appears as if they would have had some form of injection or injecting within these layers. um, I did observe some degree of pillar flows or pillar lava flows. So, I guess in the context of the geologic origin, once it's a case that those lava flows would have been in circulation, and in contact with the carbonate, then obviously the hydrothermal fluids is what then would have assisted with the precipitation of highly mineralized zones. And these mineralized zones have now become relatively weathered, and that's the reason why now we can see them relatively evident in the soils. How even rich this era is to the extent where we can even observe those mineralized zones in the same limestone dominant localities. So this on the clip to follow is just highlighting, in a close-up, what these mineralized zones actually look like, and you can see the blue and the orange slash green, and those are the copper oxidized representations. You can also see, through this landslip, those orange goldish zones, and those more likely are the copper slash copper and iron oxidized zones. Now, with this map, what it is that I am highlighting is the general area uh, that covers what it is I would have covered thus far in this video. This essentially would have been the area that I would have mapped. And as you can see, these are different localities within 9 Miles Bull Bay. The Gypsum Mine is situated here and here. And in terms of the mineralized zones, they basically exist throughout this entire location. So this is like average 2 by 2 kilometer radius. So yeah, just by highlighting this alone, and again linking it with other localities that I would have covered thus far. Again, the Constitution Hill, Dallas, Peters Rock, Woodford, Gordon Town, Mavis Bank, Clydesdale. This is now highlighting the broader extent in which this entire area in of itself highlights copper oxidized zones that generally represents the reality that it's the entirety of this geographic area that potentially is rich in copper iron skarns. Now, for this final section, I'm presenting to you what the general geology looks like as it relates to the general terrain or a section of a terrain that would include the widest range of the geology in terms of its diversification. Um, for this cross section here, there are the karst carbonates, impure, that is alluvium. There are also volcanics. And then for this cross section, there are the recrystallized carbonates, in addition to the volcanics, as well as the zone of gypsum slash anhydrite deposition or deposits. The full detail of the geology, as well as the overall reports as regards to my work that I would have carried out at these locations, those are available on our website, and the link of that is included in the description below, and that is where you can go in greater depth as regards to what the geology is, what the nature of the tectonism is in terms of what predominates, and essentially as well what it is that I would have also covered that I did not include in this video.